Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another Bite Size Branding live show. I think we're up to the 36th episode. So if this is the first time you're tuning in, where the hell have you been? So I think awesome, guys. Welcome to the show. As always, happy Friday. Hope you've had a good start today. If you are in Sydney, Grant's over in Melbourne. If you are in Sydney, hopefully you're staying out of the rain. How is it in Melbourne?
It's a little fresh. It's actually quite a nice morning today. A little fresh, but yeah.
I don't think anyone in
nice,
Sydney.
nice day.
I don't think anyone in Sydney wants to hear that. I don't think that's fair. What is that? Awesome, guys. My name is Kassab from Lucidity, and as always, I've got Grant Thom with me. Grant, introduce yourself, mate.
Hi, everyone. My name is Thom. I'm known as the head fire starter in the industry, which means give me ideas, I'll find a method to get them alight and get them going in the marketplace. I love what I do, and I love to having a chat with Bernard where we unbundle bite-sized branding, where we discuss topics in the industry. Sometimes we bring guests, sometimes we don't, but it's all about the subject of marketing.
Yeah, and definitely everybody, if you do tune into these shows, keep up to date with all the information for every next show. We do have some special guests coming up. We've got Ari Gupla booked in for next week, who is a bit of a trust-based selling expert. So he's going to talk about trust-based selling and how it relates to creating your brand. So definitely, tune in for that show. And then we have some other guests that are all getting locked in. It's getting pretty full up. So if you do want to come on the show, please feel free to get in touch with us and give us a little bit of insight on your industry and how we can talk about branding and how that relates to branding, and would love to have you as a guest. So please reach out if you want to jump on the show, and we'd love to have you on. Guys, we've got a bunch of concepts that we're going to dive into this week. It's over an array of different things, and some of the stuff is a bit of I think a favorite of Grant. So we're going to jump in. The first one, subject. I was going to say concept. The first subject we're going to be talking about is testing before investing. And I was saying to Grant just before this, only a couple of marketers would come up with a title like that. It has the rhyme, you know. But testing before investing. Essentially, what we wanted to dive into a little bit is, how do you kind of get prepared for putting out a new concept into market, and what should you do to kind of just double down on that concept, make sure that you've got something that is really going to be, really going to sing in the market. So without further ado, I will hit start on this little timer, and then we'll kick this baby off. Let's go.
Right. Well, let me start with a little bit of test before investing. I think we should trademark it. I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah, done. TM.
TM, absolutely. So this has been a bugbear of mine for over 30 years. In the sense that people come up with an idea, people invest in an idea, it goes to market and nothing happens. And yet it was a pretty good idea. But at the end of the day, nothing happens. The phones don't ring, the people don't walk in, the people don't ask, and people are frustrated. They can't figure out why. And there's no reason as to why it didn't work. It's just a case of understanding what it is. And I believe strongly, give people what they want, don't give them what you think you want. Okay. And I think it's very important that as soon as you start thinking this is what they want, it's going to be the opposite. So it's best to always ask, what do they want? And what I've learned is that if you had to have this idea and you had to just do it, not your friends don't help you in marketing, unfortunately. You've got to speak to strangers who don't know you as to will they buy you or will they not buy you, or is this value, is this not value? And therefore, I like the word of a little tester before you invest. Because once you invest and it doesn't work, it's very hard to backtrack or to steer to make it right. So I believe strongly is to get a synopsis of 50 people, 20 people, 100 people, and get their feedback before you go nationally with a broadcast message. Because 9 times out of 10, the offer is bad, the people you're talking to are bad, or you're talking to them at the wrong time. That's my little synopsis. What's you, Bernard?
Yeah, look, I think there's definitely a little bit of a reality there. If you're only checking with your direct network on your concept, chances are they are going to like it because they align to certain things that you like already. That's why they're in your real tight-knit network. You need to reach outside of your network if you want to get it exposed to people that are going to have a differing opinion or a differing insight into your product or service. And you often see this, and not a lot of companies actually do this, doing an MVP. Like especially in the app world or the software world, this is a pretty typical thing. But even then, you don't see it consistently along people who are launching an app or launching software, doing an MVP, finding a couple of beta testers saying, hey guys, we'll give you some kind of offer, like, your first 12 months will be free once we release the full app if you help us test the app in the beginning, and get the market to actually play around with it. The great thing about that as well is once they're part of the process, they feel like they take a little bit of ownership. Once they take a little bit of ownership, they're likely to also refer the product on.
Yeah.
So even if the product's not great in the beginning, they know they're part of the early beta or the early MVP experience. And you don't see this in other businesses either. Almost never see it in other businesses. Oh, I want to create this great product. And they just go to create the great product because they think it's great and there's a market for it because they have experienced it within their workforce or within their job or within, and they create this product and then realize actually the barrier to entry is too big or the cost of manufacturing is too big. And then what they don't validate is whether or not somebody is actually willing to pay X amount of money for that product. And you can do a lot of that research before you even get in there, understanding, okay, estimating around how much it's going to take to produce the product or the service. And if I take it to market and I sell this product or service for $10,000, for each subscription, is there enough appetite in the market to afford this product for $10,000, or $5,000 or $2,000? And what that also helps you do is to scale your project based on the appetite of the potential customer. So you don't go blowing out this project, making it this massive, like, end all and be all perfection of a product, and then realize nobody can actually has the appetite for something that size. Or what we actually find is sometimes they have parts of the product already, and they don't actually want a product that does it all. They want a product that just fills the gap. And that's another interesting angle that a lot of people don't really take into account when they're putting something together.
But I think the important part is that many people say, this marketing's not working, or this money didn't work, or the campaign didn't work. But if you just tested it, you just needed to maybe refine it, revisit some of the copy, get the headline to be a bit more of a call to action. Just those little things can make a huge difference to the investment that you've made. The law in marketing, less is more, guaranteed. People only have 5.4 seconds before they swipe onto something else. So you've got to grab their attention quickly.
Yeah, definitely. I think, to kind of wrap it up, and in particular in marketing as well, people aren't as willing to test before they launch the whole campaign. They expect the campaign to just hit the mark.
That went by so fast, I can't tell you.
Yeah, that was good though. I like that. I was unsure what we would cover off in this subject, but I feel like there was a lot of good insight in there. And it was great how you brought it back to marketing, where you see a lot of people just want the golden egg without raising the goose. No, you gotta grow the goose first before it can start dropping golden eggs. So.
When you have a good idea, it's a good idea in your head. It's a good idea to the people around you because you've had time to explain it. It's when you're talking to someone that doesn't know you from a bar soap, and now suddenly you want them within a couple of seconds to just grab the idea to the same level you're at. Doesn't work. So therefore, you've got to test, because it is salesmanship in print or on screen, as you say.
Yep, perfect. Awesome. And that kind of leads us to another trending topic, and it's kind of popped up a couple times this week, and then Grant actually brought it up again this morning, and I was like, you know what, let's have a bit more of a conversation around this. So a lot of people are asking about typefaces, fonts, text on the page. Not for deeper insights, there's so many different variations, so many different types of fonts, and people don't really know exactly how to use them, how many to use, where it's appropriate to use certain fonts. So we thought we'd just give a little bit of our insight, a little bit of our background, talk about what's trending right now, what's not trending so much, and whether those, like all those types of fonts, still have a place in the market. So, well, if you're ready to go, Grant, we'll hit that clock. Let's do it. Boom. I might kick this one off to start. I think what's really interesting and what kind of drove this idea, this concept this morning when we were discussing it, is I've had a couple of conversations these last couple of weeks to whether or not certain fonts are still in fashion, and where the appropriate place to use certain types of fonts are. For people may or may not know, there is a lot of different categories of fonts out there, and Google Fonts is a great way of actually getting across the different categories, because they actually divide them up quite succinctly. What you'll often find, as you see on all the fonts that we use, these are called sans serif fonts. So a serif, like on a font that a lot of people would know, would be Times New Roman, where you see at the end of the letters they have like a little drop down or a little tab that comes off the edge of the letter. Yeah, a little finesse off the end there, and those are called serif fonts. And serif fonts are what would typically be deemed a very traditional font. They're kind of newspaper paper style font, which kind of adapted from black lettering, which was the more original newspaper font before even the sans serif came along. The serif came along. But you'll see now a lot of simplistic, very clean line, very geometric serif fonts. You'll see there's sans serif fonts. So there's like no extra flirting or little extra bits and pieces. The lettering is all very clear and distinct. I remember a couple years ago, a kid in, I believe he was in the US, proved that the cheapest font to actually print was, I believe it was Bodoni, and that's a sans serif font, which was very interesting. There was a bit of a hoo-ha about that, because everyone was like, Bodoni, wow, like this old font's coming back, and it was more cost effective to print, which was a very funny thing, because of the space it took on the page was less ink to apply the font. Correct. Which was very interesting. I'll kick it over to you, Grant. What's your thoughts on the different styles of fonts and the application of those different font styles, and what do you see as trending right now?
Well, there's a couple of things taking place here, Bernard. First of all, in traditional space, in the newspaper fonts, they were designed, yes, to keep ink coverage to a minimum, but at the same time, it was to be the most legible for fast reading possible, and that's what they were designed for. Having moved on, we're sitting on close over 500,000, that's over 500,000 individual fonts that are out in the marketplace, which in theory, only 20 are used are popular. Okay. Yeah. That shows you how many fonts are out there. I'm sure there are close to 1 million, but I think there are 500,000 to 100,000 relevant fonts. And the thing that's the most important at the end of the day is legibility. How do you get the message across fast? How do you make it for the reader to read your message quickly? And that's where the problem is that I love typography. I love spacing. I love wordplay. I love open space. I love that, because you've got to create that ambiance on a page with the view to create music, to harmony, that you get me to buy in. And I think what's important is that there is an interesting space with the view of designing fonts to be alternative or different, but at the same time, going to digital, it's now about you can be more playful than ever before, because there isn't any ink saving in digital. It's about getting the effect across. And therefore, it's about finding a font, but not being so radically different that people don't know what your font is. It's about being so radically different that people recognize you by your communication style.
That's a cool way of putting it. That is a very cool way of putting it. Yeah, creating a font that is, or creating a font application even, that is distinctive to you and your brand. And then that way, when people see it and they see it in application, they go, oh, I know those guys, not because they saw the logo, but because the colors and the fonts kind of represent how the brand positions itself. And you definitely see that with brands like Nike. Like Nike just has a very particular way of applying their content that when you see an ad from Nike, you're like, that's a Nike ad. You don't even need to see the tick. You're like, that's a Nike ad. It's so distinctive to them. I'd say even Coca-Cola has a very strong, powerful typographic use,
I think what's important for any business that is running regular campaigns, and when I talk about regular communication, regular messaging, regular offering, is to come up with a recipe, a golden recipe that belongs to that organization, in the sense of what you say, how you position it, and of course the font is the final ingredient in the sense of how that ties together, because that's what gets people to recognize who and what you are. Now, how fast was that, Bernard? How fast was that?
That was perfect. I couldn't even imagine a way to better wrap that up. That was perfect. It was like you just led it straight to the perfect wrap up, and then it was like end time. Nicely done. We're getting better at this. Phew, after 36 shows, we finally got a rhythm happening.
Well, wait till you get to 50.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. We'll have long beards. We've been doing this forever. Awesome, guys. Hopefully you got some information out of that was valuable, of value. And when you're going to consider putting together your next campaign, consider the font that goes along with that campaign. Because sometimes that will help tie together all the brand elements. And though it might not be your corporate font, what it might do is help build out a campaign because it becomes relevant to the customer. And remember, the typography, as much as what it says, is as much as it is visually appealing to the customer that you're looking to attract. So it is part of the communication tool.
Well, I'm going to just close off by saying that radically different fonts are not your friend. Okay, unless it is who and what your brand is all about. But if you're radically different, you're just going to make it hard for someone to read. And if it's hard to read, they're not going to read. And when they're not going to read, they're not going to buy. And when they're not going to buy, well, then you're going to say the campaign sucks. So stick to regularity, but play with color, play with shape, and play with size. I think that's crucial. And digital, you can go off the page now because you can.
Yeah. Not restricted.
Not just
cool. This one is all. This last topic we're going to talk about is all Grant. If you have tuned into the shows in the past, you will hear Grant at some point slip in the word edutainment.
For the last 36 shows, he's used it 36 times.
Exactly 36. Yeah, it is been used literally in every show. And then if we've almost slipped through a show where it wasn't used, and just before the last buzzer goes, we just put it in there. Make sure it's in the show. Yeah, so Grant loves the word edutainment. It is a word that resonates with both of us. And what we're going to do is unbundle that a little bit. I don't want to explain too much about it before we actually get to the segment. What I'm going to do, I'll reset this little baby and let's talk all about edutainment.
Well, just the way that you get that clock there, Bernard, just tells me there's a little bit of edutainment. You know, you're not fumbling around or anything like that anymore. You get straight to the button straight away. So I think there we go is a good example of some edutainment in the sense that it took you a while to understand how this thing worked, but now it's fun. And that's exactly what edutainment is all about, is that when you're communicating, you need to be educating all the time to the value, because if you do not highlight the value that you give your customer or your client on a regular basis, they won't remember why they're buying from you. They won't remember what the value is that you bring to them, and they'll just get complacent. The whole point of educating people is because the world doesn't stand still. Things are constantly changing. Competitors are constantly upping the game. So what's important is to find a method that you stay ahead of the game, and that's through education. But education, as we all know, being at school, is quite boring. So therefore, you've got to put a little bit of zing into it in the sense of fonts, colors, visuals, video. All those things start to play a fundamental component of communication. And that's where we copyright it, we trademarked again, TN's edutainment, in the sense of whatever you do, educate and entertain your customer, because you know what? You don't get second chances. You only have one chance to grab someone's attention. So do the very best you can.
Our trademarking bill is going to go through the bloody roof after this show. We're going to have to be trademarking everything.
Look, sponsors, haven't we got sponsors?
Yeah, well, it's a good idea. We should get a trademark lawyer to sponsor the show. That's sorry, you just trailed me off in another thought. I'm like, we should get a trademark lawyer on the show.
I've got one.
But
fantastic. Yeah.
Awesome. Let's get him on the show. Great. Yeah. Look, let's get back to the topic at hand. Edutainment. Look, it is a great phrase that we just, or word that we just throw in. It does have a lot of depth to it too, though. People are bombarded by content all the time. And you'll see the ones that kind of pop up and capture people's attention are the ones that can turn a topic from just being a topic into something interesting. Interesting. Just like this phone.
Don't worry about it.
There we go. That's it. Anyone want to call that number? It's 07. And what we find I'll give an example. Last year we did an EDM, and in the EDM we sent out a topic, and the topic was how we lost a $60,000 project.
Yeah.
That EDM was the most open EDM we still have to date, because it gave something to people that was outside of the mean of what they would expect a marketing company to sell, to send. And what they expect the marketing company to send is like how to improve your SEO, or how to improve your campaign, or like refresh your branding, what you need to know. They expect to see that all the time. What we did was take a different approach to talk about the same message that came from an experience that not only that we had, but we knew our clients were having as well. And that
Correct.
grabbed their attention. They felt like we were now talking to them rather than sending them another generic article, another generic EDM
Yeah.
about marketing, and what it allowed us to do. And what was interesting is that wasn't even the most clicked on article outside of the EDM. It grabbed people's attention for them to then be intrigued about other things, other components within the marketing space.
Sure.
And it was a very compelling piece of content. Now, what I would challenge people to do is try that in your business. I think one of the fantastic campaigns that I've ever, like almost ever seen, actually. I love this campaign. I love the Commonwealth Witch Bank campaign.
Yeah.
That was such a phenomenal, because every day from that moment on, from that campaign, somebody would say, oh, I need to go to the bank. And you would say, which bank? And no matter which bank they are in, what comes to your mind is Commonwealth Bank. And it's amazing when a business takes a common phrase and turns it into marketing collateral.
Correct.
Like there was another brand that went viral, and it was called Responsibly, and it was a beer, and it was called, and then they did an ad campaign that said thank you to all the other beer companies for advertising us on the back of their bottles, and then they highlighted the back of the label and it says drink responsibly. It was just phenomenal. It's a play on words, common language, and they turned it into something that became a marketing device within their business. So that was a little bit. Look, we'll wrap that up a little bit more, because I feel like there's so much more we can talk about in that topic. But edutainment is a way of us to kind of synchronize, I would say, the message between education and grabbing somebody and turning that education or that information and knowledge and into something that is engaging for the customer, something that is entertainment for the customer. How do we get to them at their level where we can use a play on words, or use some insight, customer insight, to create a campaign that engages somebody into the campaign, that makes them feel like, wow, they get me, That's what edutainment's all about.
I think that for every single business out there that is running and trading or wants to start up, there's some incredible ingredients. There are people, there are concepts, there are price points, there are distribution, there are need factors. All of those need some form of education as to the value that it is. And if you do not offer value, then people won't buy. And that's what I think what people tend to miss as business owners is that they overlook the value because they see it and they touch it every day. But as customers, we don't see it and touch it every day. So therefore, you've got to act as if you've just opened your doors for the very first time and talking to people for the very first time, even though you've been trading for 20 years. Yeah. And you've got to find an incredible way. And digital now allows you to go off on more tangents in more directions than ever before, because eventually through hashtagging, linking, backlinking, websites, and landing pages, you can gather them back at the end. You couldn't do that in traditional media. It was a long investment, and it was a big risk.
Yeah. And I think something you said in there, which I kind of like captured as you were saying it, is that a lot of businesses, I think, put it in the too hard basket. How do I entertain my customers while informing them? And what they end up doing is just residing on their services or their length of time in business or an award that they've won, because it's easier for them to talk about that kind of stuff. But what it isn't is it's not customer centric. Your customers aren't going, wow, I hope they've won a lot of awards. What they're going is, what they really want to know is, can you guys engage me and share with me what you do? through that. It's not about selling your services. It's about informing them and engaging them, and then creating a bit of motivation, creating a little bit of a thirst, a drive to want to do business with you. And another thing that Grant said, which I'll extrapolate on, is even though you've been in business for a long time, and there might be 100 other businesses that do the same thing as what you do, doesn't mean you shouldn't think of a way to edutain with the content that you put out there. In fact, that is the best way for you to differentiate. Is to be that one that drives the information sharing within your industry. And you can just look at that. Look how many viral, butchers they've been. And there was that guy who corn, he had a new way of peeling your corn. Like, weird things become viral because they're entertaining and inform. And from there, people then build a connection with you. They build a trust, they build a like for you.
Yeah.
And then want to do business with you. And it's incredible. You see this happen again and again and again. The hardest thing is, and I think a lot of people get edutainment block, is they're like, I don't know where to start. I don't know the right direction to take.
There are more angles to any idea now than ever before. You can't run out of something to do or say. You can be so clear. It's just about being brave, believing in what you're doing, and getting your team to come on board. If you look at today's show, Bernard, we've really covered our subjects very, I know we had a loose chat this morning and we just threw them down, but you look at it in conclusion, test before you invest. Look at what you're saying in the sense of the type font, because the message is important. And at the end of the day, make sure that you're educating and entertaining with the view to make sure that your brand is recognized. Those are the 3 top ingredients, secrets that any marketer can share with any business before someone wants to make their marketing successful.
Yeah. And I think never let the lack of ideas or the lack of creativeness in your ideas hinder you from driving towards a new idea.
Great.
Just keep going out to market and asking people. Every time you're at a meeting, every time you're out in the street, every time you're having a chat with somebody, ask them, hey, look, I've got a business doing X. Ever thought of a different way that the X could go to market? How else could I talk about my brand? I'm a little bit bored about what I'm saying. However you want to phrase it, prompt them in some way to just get creative with you. And you'll see what happens when you start randomly, ad hocly workshopping in the streets, the amazing ideas that come out of that. And that could be the next winning idea that comes across the table.
Absolutely. Well, there you go, folks. That is what bite-sized branding is all about. It's about sharing the insights and the secrets by 2 marketeers in 2 different territories, but with 2 different experiences coming together with the view of putting the yin and the yang of marketing together to make sure that you, as a business, can be profitable. If you want to know more, please reach out with us. If you want to be on the show, please reach out to us. If you want to make suggestions, please reach out to us. But don't forget to click, link, and follow, and share, because at the end of the day, together is how we'll grow and share this information to Australia.
Man, I feel like we're going to have to trademark that whole last paragraph right there.
Oh, let's get that patent turning on board right away.
Mate, go. Yeah, guys, as Grant said, one thing that we're definitely looking for on the show is some more subjects that are really affecting you right now, and would love to do something a little bit controversial. If you have an idea or a thought on something and you think, you know what, it doesn't really align with what everyone else is talking about, what do we think about it? We would love to unbundle that on one of the shows, and couldn't ask for better edutainment than that. Everybody, as always, thank you very much for joining us. Grant, it's always a pleasure. Everyone have a great Friday, and we'll catch you in a couple weeks.
Cheers, Bernard. Cheers, everyone.
Thanks a lot, mate.
See you in 2 weeks' time.
See you later, guys. Bye-bye.